Within this project lesson, we will add a little bit of interactivity to an animation, allowing the user to interact with the project content. So right now we have this little animation, and if we go to Control, Test Movie, Test, we can see that we've got a little cliff face and a ball that goes and rolls off the cliff face. And then it loops. Well, what if we don't want it to loop? What if we want it to stop at the end, and we don't want it to start again until the user actually interacts with it? So here's how we're going to do that. You can see here I've got this actions layer. And within the actions layer, we can put any sort of little pieces of action script that we want. So I don't want any interactivity to actually happen until way at the very last frame, 150 here. So what I'm going to want to do is go in and insert, and I want to insert a blank keyframe. So notice here that we have now this little frame with a circle in it, and it's an unfilled circle. This is a blank keyframe, and this will allow us to apply a little bit of action script to this keyframe that'll execute when the playhead hits this keyframe. And in order to do that, what I'm going to need is the actual actions panel. So that isn't open right now in my Essentials workspace. So I'm going to go into Window and find Actions, which is right here. You can also hit F9 on Windows in order to open the Actions panel. So here we have the Actions panel. And what I will do is initially invoke this. So this refers to pretty much the current object. Since I'm working on the main timeline or the root timeline, this is referring to my actual main timeline. I'm then going to give it a command of stop. If I say this stop within the main timeline is going to stop. So let's see this in action. We'll Control, Test Movie, Test. So here's our animation just like before. And we can see when it hits frame 150, it actually does stop for us. So that's great. What we probably want to do here is give the user a little message, some text saying, hey, if you want to watch it again, just click here, something like that. So let's collapse the actions panel here. And on this last layer, I'm going to actually, or rather on this last frame, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call it message. And here again, I'm going to insert another blank keyframe, and I just use the keyboard shortcut there, which is F7. So selecting the text tool, I'm going to use some classic text, and it's just going to be static text. And all of these settings are probably fine. And I'll just have a message, click to play again. Okay. And maybe make that a little bit smaller. Position it however I want it. And great. So what are we going to click to play again, right? What I'll do is I'll actually set this up so that when somebody just clicks the general stage, it'll actually play again. So we don't have to create a button or anything like that for this. So to do that, what we're going to do is write a little more action script here. So we're going to say this once again, which is referring to the current stage, the main timeline. And we're going to add an event listener. Adding an event listener is going to allow us to react to a specific event. And the stage is going to be listening for this event. The type of event we want is a mouse event.click. This will fire off whenever we detect that the mouse has been clicked on the stage. And this is anywhere on the stage. You'll notice that as soon as I said this, mouse event.click, Flash Professional actually imports flash.events.mouseEvent. Flash.events is a package which contains the class mouseEvent. So we're adding the event listener, and the last piece we need is we have to tell the event listener a function to execute whenever a mouse click is detected. So we're going to simply call it onClick. And then directly below, we'll create a new function called onClick. And there'll be an argument be passed in, an event pass through of type mouseEvent. And we will return void because we're not actually returning anything here. We're simply going to provide Flash Player with some commands what to do with the timeline. So what we want it to do is go back to the beginning and play again. So we'll say this dot go to and play. And for go to and play, you can put in a frame or a scene. So we're going to have one scene here. I'm going to say go to and frame 1. And I'll save that. So let's go back and test this out one final time. So test movie, test. All right, so here's our animation. All right, we hit that last frame, so the text popped up. And if I click, we can see that indeed it does start over again. So this has been an example of how to add a little bit of interactivity to a Flash Professional project.